politics. And all right, you move the conversation slightly in the direction of, you know, the 2027 election positioning. So, do you think there is any reason for people, you know, to really fear that we will finally have one party dominance, you know, as you have rightly described it, you know? And if this is the case, do you see any role for civil society and the media in particular, you know, to in a way help build some level of political awareness and empowerment so that people can realize that whatever it is at the end of the day, the power still belongs to the people?
So, but the truth is that I said earlier that democracy is in reversal and is endangered, not only in Nigeria but many other countries, and that Nigeria is also badly affected because democracy hasn't delivered the good governance that is expected. And with the rising cost of living, high rate of unemployment, high rate of poverty, corruption, misgovernance, and wrong priorities, the citizens are ordinarily disenchanted. And my own position is that our problem is not whether we run a multi-party or a one-party dominant system. Democracy, for people to believe in it, must deliver on its objectives. And if it's not delivering on its objectives, there is no point breaking your head about whether you have a dominant one party or dominant two party. And it's like ordinary citizens don't matter. So it's a political elite thing. The elite, you talk about elite capture, and that's why I don't have sympathy for any political party, because they are 5 and 6, they are birds of a feather. Today, people will castigate APC, chieftain, and all of that. Who are the bulk of APC? What is their pedigree? I mean, they are chieftains. They were the people who were involved in the ruination of the country for 16 years.
Under PDP, right?
Under PDP, does changing the party platform, does it make you a better leader? I've given you the statistics. We have 5 political parties who produced governors in the last election. Can we say this particular government of a state is a model to follow in terms of delivery, good governance? We saw that it's just a matter, and the norm, the belief is that political parties are special purpose vehicles through which politicians ride into political office. And thereafter it's discarded. So when people break their heads for either the ruling party or the opposition party, I sit back, I sit down, look, and just say, do these people understand history of the political class of Nigeria? Do they know that those people that they are lionizing today were previous people who have previously been given opportunity and have failed? The Atiku Abubakar was vice president for 8 years under President Olusegun Obasanjo. What is his pedigree as number 2 citizen?
I mean, the argument on the counter to that, Jide, is that the excuse. The people will always argue that as a vice president, you serve, at the behest of the president, your principal. But I know that back then. Atiku was head of the National Council for National Economic
privatization.
Council, and he oversaw the
No,
privatization.
National
Yes,
Council on Privatization. It was
on
the head of National
privatization.
Council
Yeah.
on Privatization, as well as the chairman of the National Economic Council. So, it was only in the second time that he had a raw deal with his principal. But we have many of them who are governors for 8 years before they are now senators. We have many of them that held ministerial appointments. In fact, there are people, look at someone like Audu Ogbe, who had been ministers in different
Since
republics.
the time of Shagari.
Exactly, from the Second Republic through to this Fourth Republic. So what is that? What are their credentials? So the point I'm trying to make, and that's my conclusion yesterday in my column, where I said whether we run a multi-party democracy or we run a dominant one party, of greater importance to me is how does the ordinary citizen fare? What are our political leaders deliverable to the ordinary citizen? Can we have higher standard of living than higher cost of living? Because what many of us are experiencing, including myself, is that we are experiencing higher cost of living, not higher standard of living. And that's why even the World Bank, the IMF, just came out in this last April with their report that says that poverty will grow by 3.6% in 2020 in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So, of what benefit has democracy been to us?
And we don't see the opposition party, pick on issues like that, not for the sake of criticism for criticism's sake, but to come up with alternative, plans that, all right, this is the situation the country is in. This is how, if we get power, how we want to move the country from 3.7% poverty downwards, So, yes.
And this is even my own model, Bothering. My own model is that can each of those 5 political parties who have produced at least one governor be the role model, be of exemplary performance, that we can say, oh, if this party should govern at the center, we will have a better life. Barack Obama came to Ghana and said Africa does not need strong
men,
persons, strong men, but strong institutions.
You
and I, you have worked with civil societies in Nigeria. You have observed the election across the world. You know that our democratic institutions are weak.
Very weak.
And that's why holding government to account has been a serious challenge. And now the saving grace is the civil society and the media. And even that, we must exercise caution, because media ownership in Nigeria is largely by the political class. Whether you are talking of print media or electronic media, you know who are the publishers, who are the founders of these broadcast stations. Many of them, many of the owners who are politicians, by the way they treat their workers, cannot be entrusted with a governorship seat. Situations where you establish a print outfit, you are making huge sums of money, and you are not paying your staff. You are owing your staff for upward of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or you tell them that your ID card is your meal ticket. Now, Bodwin, tell me, if that person should be in charge of a state, will he pay workers' salary? So why I'm saying this is that we need to unpack and not follow the sentiments of all these baby cries in the media. Oh, APC is inducing our members, APC is using anti-corruption agencies. And I cited the example in my column on 31st of April. I said, look, if it's about the APC coercing people into his fold, someone like Bola Tinubu should have joined the PDP from the time of Obasanjo, when he was harassed, when state power was used against him as the last man standing after the 2003 election. Even under the Goodluck Jonathan, he was dragged in 2011, dragged to Code of Conduct Bureau for operating 10 foreign accounts as a governor. But he came out unscathed. So if they now say people are joining APC because they have cases at the EFCC, why can't they move? Why can't they, if their own hands are clean, why can't they stand firm and say, take me to anywhere? Court is not.
That's a very good point. Good point. Yeah. Thanks, Jide. I mean,
people go to court to have their names to clean up or to set records straight and all of that. So what I'm trying to say, let's not forget the question, is our redeeming factor is no longer in the political class of Nigeria, because our party system is weak and is patronage based. And if you are, I'm giving you the illustration of Siberia and Saudi Arabia. So people want to be in Saudi Arabia, they don't want to be in Siberia. Even there are people who are in the opposition who are working for the ruling party. They will not defect, they are not decamping, but they are enemy within, who blow whistle on what they do to the ruling party. And some of them have even shown their face. There are those who are obviously doing anti-party, and they are doing it to everybody's face, and they are acting with impunity. So if you rely on such people or such opposition party to bail out this country from the backsliding into autocracy, then we are not looking at the right direction. So the right direction basically is media and civil society. We still have one of the most vibrant media in Africa, in spite of the ownership issue, in spite of the challenges of operating within a very hostile environment where cost of production is huge, where you face the existential challenge of even having to power your station with diesel because the public power supply is not readily available. And now, with all the rising cost of doing business, all the ease of doing business is just mere rhetorics, because and so operational environment of businesses in Nigeria is very, very hostile. But what is left is the civil society and the media. But I must also hasten to talk about the fear I have about the civil society. Civil society, Tato, has been very vibrant, have played role as a vanguard of protecting democracy. You have worked with quite a lot of them. You have built their capacity. You have strengthened them. But today, funding has become a serious challenge for civil society.
Again?
Especially with the season of USAID funds.
Yep.
And ahead of 2027, I wonder if by the end of this year, whether half of the existing civil society in Nigeria working on democracy and good governance will not follow.
Will still be there. Yep.
Because these people are not running as volunteer. There are some of us who have not known any other employment beyond being in civil society. And people were supporting civil society to do all of those activism that was being done. You know, civil disobedience, protest, call to action, going on sensitization,
strategic litigation, and so on.
Public interest litigation. They were being paid for by the donors, by the different funding and donor organizations. Now, we have seen what has happened with USAID. We have seen that even EU is reducing its funding, FCDO is reducing its funding. And at the end of the day, do you think Nigerian government will set up a foundation to fund civil society, to fight it? So, and we have been the thorn in their flesh. We are the one calling them out. We are the one saying INEC did not do well when it says there are glitches with computation of election results online. We are the one pointing out that partisan people should not be appointed into INEC. But how long can we use our own personal resources to do this advocacy? If there is
not very long. Not very long.
Not very long. So the potent threat I want us to see is this, that the shrinking civic space is going to shrink further unless we can find a more creative way to sustain the advocacy. For instance, if you want to do radio sensitization, you know how much a 30-second slogan on an FM station costs, let alone if you want to do 1 hour on a network radio station.
Yeah.
If nobody is paying for that, can you afford it with your own personal resources? Today, when civil society organizations started in the form of NGO during the military era, people like Ganifa and me, people like Femi Falana, Olisa Agbakoba, they have second address. They have their law chamber. They were earning good money from
their practices.
Legal
Beck
services.
was a doctor, medical
doctor. But today, you have lawyers who never practiced, whose first job till today has been civil society. So they are not courtroom. So to now find their way back 15, 20 years after call to bar, to now go and set up a chamber, when you now have thousands of lawyers being produced annually, many of them will grapple to find their feet because all the rat race. It's a rat race. So by and large, I'm just putting it out there. I'm not making a call. But we need to understand that whether we look in the direction of political parties or the media or the civil society, they come with their own faults and foibles. They come with their own challenges and their own strong strength. And there must be a coalition of forces. It has to be joint effort between the civil society and the media, particularly those medias that are still very vibrant and still speak truth to power, who can help to amplify the voices of the civil society without charging them exorbitant rates for their advocacy. Because the assumption in the media space is that civil society gets a lot of foreign donor support, and that they are not willing to share with them to augment their own running costs as a business. But there need to be an handshake across the table to find a coalition that will take on this challenge of holding government to account and making sure that government deliver on its constitutional responsibility of security and welfare for citizens. Because whatever we are saying here and now, the anchor to all of this multi-party system, one-party system, two-party system, the anchor of all of this is that why are we advocating for the protection of the party system? If the party system by themselves are not helping the citizens, if they are more interested in personal aggrandizement, I think the advocacy power grabbing, just like we have issues of land grabbing, it's now about power grabbing. So my own advocacy is that let's have an handshake across the table. If the political class wants to come in, they can come in, but majorly the hope of ordinary citizens lies in media and civil society coming together, forming a formidable coalition to hold government to account. Because even when, holding government to account starts with the electoral process. What is the state of our electoral process? Nigeria is the national chairman of INEC will be leaving by November this year. Barely 6 months to, is it up to 6 months?
And we are now in May. So Yeah,
So
4 months.
he has barely, 6 months to
Yeah,
go.
5, 6 months.
So are we interested in ensuring that a better, more credible person takes charge at the end of affairs so that we don't run 2027 election into another stormy weather?
Yeah.
That should be part of our advocacy, because it's not about the billions that they will get in budget for this year and next year. It's about whether that money is a properly invested funds that delivers credible polls at the end of the day. I told you earlier on that Nigeria is showing their disenchantment with democracy by refusing to come out to vote, even in the face of voter inducement. I saw it. I was in Edo State governorship election in September 2024. I couldn't make it to Edo in November 2024, but the report said that some political party agents were offering as much as 20,000 naira per vote. Yet, that election recorded less than 20% voter turnout.
Wow.
So it means that even in spite of the poverty status of many Nigeria, they are just tired. They now have election fatigue. That what is it? Even if you give us money, will this 20,000 take me for 4 years? Look at the state of the roads. Look at the state of infrastructure. So the accountability should be about making our money to work for us, making sure that politicians steal less and deliver more dividends to the ordinary citizen. Make provision for, let's have better electricity infrastructure, let's have better roads, hospitals, schools, let's have infrastructure that can support private entrepreneurship so that those the government could not employ can fend for themselves. They can start their own business and make a living. Not because how many people can government even employ in the first place?
I know.
And now,
government is to provide the enabling environment for private enterprise.
But the cost of doing business in Nigeria is so astronomical that
prohibitively high.
To break even, let alone making profit, is a huge challenge. And that's why you see many businesses closing down, because they cannot even, people will rent shop, paid millions of naira per annum, but sales are so low that they cannot even recover their capital, let alone talking about making profit. So at the end of the day, after 2-3 years of trial, they give up and look for something else. Some of them will go take paid employment where they will still be whole salary. The sad pity of it. Today is May Day in Nigeria. The national labor unions are saying that, one, many state governments are not paying the 70,000 minimum wage. That's one. Two, the 70,000 minimum wage, even where it is paid, cannot even buy anything meaningful because of the 40% devaluation of the currency. So what you could buy with 30,000 before this new minimum wage, you now will buy same measure for about 120,000. So if you are handing,
so that has made nonsense of the revised minimum wage. Then
the food inflation in Nigeria bordering is about 40%.
I know, yeah.
Headline inflation is double digits, about 24-23%. So how then, even where you hand 100,000 naira, you hardly will be able, with a family of 4 or a family of 2, will hardly be able to manage to eat once or twice a day. Because by the time you pay transportation, your rent, even where I'm talking with you, in my own apartment, my landlord increased my rent by over 100%.
Jesus.
For a accommodation that is about 17, maybe 20-year-old. And I have to plea and negotiate, and we are still on it. So what I'm saying is that we face existential challenge, and that's why a lot of people are silenced because of their poverty. They cannot hold government, they cannot come out to oppose government because they just don't have the strength and the stamina and the resources to engage. Because, okay, to even hire a lawyer, in the event that you are arrested, a lawyer will not do pro bono service.
Of course.
Then the court process and all of that. But it's a very challenging situation, but not a hopeless one. The bottom line is that salvation lies in that handshake I talked about, media,
between civil society, media,
working collaboratively together to hold and demand for good governance. Because without good governance, whatever the party system says, whatever democracy ethos and tenets says, is meaningless. In 2024, we had the end test. Now, every item you buy in another week has gone up, the price will have gone up by about 10-20%. So you cannot even plan family budget. It makes nonsense of this whole thing. That delivers a properly invested funds that delivers credible tools at the end of the day. I told you earlier on that Nigeria is showing their disenchantment with democracy by refusing to come out to vote, even in the face of voter inducement. I saw it. I was in Edo State governorship election in September 2024. I couldn't make it to Edo in November 2024, but the report said that some political party agents were offering as much as 20,000 naira per vote. Yet, that election recorded less than 20% voter turnout.
Wow.
So it means that even in spite of the poverty status of many Nigerians, they're just tired. They now have election fatigue. That what is it? Even if you give us money, would this 20,000 take me for 4 years? Look at the state of the roads. Look at the state of infrastructure. So the accountability should be about making our money to work for us, making sure that politicians steal less and deliver more dividends to the ordinary citizen. Make provision for, let's have better electricity, infrastructure, let's have better roads, hospitals, schools, let's have infrastructure that can support private entrepreneurship, so that face existential challenge. And that's why a lot of people are silenced because of their poverty. They cannot hold government, they cannot come out to oppose government because they just don't have the strength and the stamina and the resources to engage. Because, okay, to even hire a lawyer, in the event that you are arrested, a lawyer will not do pro bono service.
Of course.
Then the court process and all of that. But it's a very challenging situation, but not a hopeless one. The bottom line is that salvation lies in that handshake I talked about, media,
between civil society, media,
working collaboratively together to hold and demand for good governance. Because without good governance, whatever the party system says, whatever democracy ethos and tenets says, is meaningless into this kind of life to our next generation.
We shouldn't, and we must not. We must not.
Services being epileptic, life being very expensive, healthcare delivery not being accessible and affordable, education, you have to pay through your nose. So it's a very gloomy picture, but I keep saying it's not peculiar to Nigeria. If you ask an average Ghanaian, they tell you similar story. You ask an average South African, they are likely going to tell you the same thing. That's why the broad-based support that ANC enjoys during the time of Nelson Mandela has eroded, and ANC has to be forming coalition to stay in power now, because average South Africans are also not laughing because of the cost of living and all of that. So it's a conundrum. But I still believe in democracy as a better form of government than any other systems.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jide. And I think that is a very good point for us to really anchor this very engaging and insightful conversation.
It's my
Thank you
pleasure.
for, taking us through the issues as as richly as you have done. And well, once again, we hope our audience, who have been engaging, they will share comments, and we want to hear from you what you think about the state of democracy at large. In particular, the state of multi-party elections in multi-party politics in countries like Nigeria. If you're watching from Nigeria, we would like to hear from you. If you're watching from elsewhere, we also like to hear from you, because as our guest has spoken so eloquently, these issues are not just about one country. Thank you. So thank you, everyone. Please
Stay
like,
blessed.
share,
Keep safe.
comment, and subscribe to this channel. See you soon on the next edition. Bye bye.